I'll talk louder. How's that?
That's better.
Okay. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good to see so many here for a cold, wintry Melbourne morning. Now, birthdays, he's not going to own up to it, but he's not going to get away with it. It's Brian Fitt's 92nd birthday. An absolute stalwart of our club. And Brian, we congratulate you. We admire the way in which you overcome all the problems, and you're here, and you're an active member of this club. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other birthdays or anniversaries? No. Mr. Vice President, the roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay. Peter Bedford.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Peter.
Thanks, sir.
Noel Benton. Bert the Berry Man.
Yes.
Bertie. Bruce Bazant.
Yes.
Ted Breer.
Present.
I saw Ted working in the background before. I broke his biscuits. Philip Carter. Mick Doherty.
Yeah.
I'm here. Still vertical. Len Edwards.
No, and an apology for Len.
Thank you. Robert the Urbacher.
I'm here.
Alan Evans.
Present.
92 years young. Brian Fitt. Mick Francis, an apology. Frank Henny.
Yep.
Morning, Frank.
Morning.
Bob Hill.
Apology for Bob.
Thank you. Detlev Hinks. Apology. Reg Jackson.
Yeah.
Joe Landsberg.
Yep.
Morning, Joe.
Morning.
Peter McCartney.
Yeah.
Brother of Paul. Brian McMahon. Johnny Metcalf. Gary Papworth.
Yes, I'm here.
Bev Ratton.
Yes, there she is.
Thought you left.
No.
Graham Ratton.
Yes.
Laurie Rose.
Yes.
Kevin Ryan.
Yes.
Picking up pace now. Will Sandler.
We'll put in an apology for Will.
Well. David Taylor.
Apology for David.
Thank you. Les Serling.
Yep.
Keith Tupper.
Sir.
Livio Chiricek.
Yeah.
Morning, Livio. Andy Walsh, apology. I think that's it, Mr. President.
Okay, my wife's an apology.
Oh, Jackie Jones, I missed.
Yeah, she's an apology.
Thank you.
Can I also just take the opportunity to send a special message to our daughter Kate, who's not completely well and she's resting at home, and she said she was going to be courageous enough to watch these proceedings this morning. So Kate, I hope you enjoy them. Just before we get a couple of little, remember I've been talking about a number of affairs. Well, this is the 5th affair. A man walked into a cafe and he went to the bar and he ordered a beer. Certainly, sir, that will be 1 cent. 1 cent, the man exclaimed. He glanced at the menu and asked, how much for a nice juicy steak and a bottle of wine? A nickel, the barman replied. A nickel, exclaimed the man. Where's the guy who owns this place? The bartender replied, upstairs with my wife. The man asked, skip this. The man asked, what's he doing upstairs with your wife? The bartender replied, the same thing I'm doing to his business down here. And just another little one. It's tax time. It's tax time. So the tax office actually commented on this return, the importance of accuracy in our tax return. The ATO has returned the tax return to a man in Townsville, Queensland, after he apparently answered one of the questions. In response to the question, "Do you have anyone dependent on you?" the man wrote, 2.1 million illegal immigrants, 1.1 million crackheads, 4.4 million unemployable scoundrels, 80,000 criminals in over 85 prisons, plus 450 idiots in Parliament, thousands of retired politicians, and an entire group that called themselves senators. The ATO gave their response as unacceptable. The man's response back to the ATO was, "Who did I leave out?" Reports. Our wonderful almoner, Dr. Graham Bratton. Graham, anything you'd like to report?
I've got a couple of things to say, so I'll come out the front.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
In the mic.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I apologise for Bob Hill. Unfortunately, Anne fell over recently and cracked her pelvis. So she's, I think, residing in Warringal Hospital, I think, at the moment. So there's not too much joy there at the moment. I spoke yesterday with David Taylor. He rang me, and he's fallen over recently and cracked a couple of ribs, he thinks. So that's the reason he's not here today. But he hopes that he won't be out of action for too long. And the third person to mention is Len Edwards, who last month I reported that Len had made some improvement. It was home after a long time in hospital and rehab. Unfortunately, that improvement has not been continued, so he's not too well at the moment. That's all. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Graham. Now, our very ferocious lion, the Treasurer, Kevin Ryan. Kev, what's our current state of play in terms of our finances?
Well, I haven't got much to say, so I'll stay up here. Not much activity in the last month. We've got $644 in the bank at the moment. Still one or two memberships to come, but that's the situation at the moment. Nothing else to report.
Okay, thanks, Kev. Activities. Mr. Vice President, would you like to just briefly give a comment on our attendance at the Metro Tunnel?
Yeah. We had a great day out. I think there was, how many days? 7 or 8?
9.
9 of us gathered, taken down there in Swanston Street opposite the town hall. I think the tour was there was a presentation by 3 or 4 different people about different segments of the tunnel and how it would operate. I think my recall is that going through the Metro Tunnel as we speak, I think there's 22 rail systems in Victoria. Principally the two, there's 3, I can't remember the third, but the Sunbury line and the Cranbourne line, I think they carry the most passengers per day. And the tunnel that's been built to accommodate the 5 new railway stations, there'll be a direct input from Sunbury through the tunnel and then out through the Cranbourne line, if you like. There's Arden Street, Town Hall, one down St Kilda Road.
Yeah. Melbourne University
at Parkville and the library. So for us people wanting to go to, let's say if you wanted to go to University of Melbourne, you'd want to get to Parkville. So you get on a train on the northern line, you get to Flinders Street and then you walk underground. There'll be a laneway, if you like. It'll take you up to Town Hall. You jump on a train at Town Hall, and then head out towards Arden Street if you want to go to the North Melbourne footy ground or out that way, or you want to jump off at Parkville. Enormous project. They say it'll be on time. They're expecting that, I think 3 of the stations have been completed, 2 to go. They expect, I think, late October or November will be operational. It won't operate unless all the 5 stations are up and about. The cost, I think, was
15 billion.
Yeah, almost, around about that. They were thinking a blowout by about 2.5 billion from the time from way to go, and I think it's been going for, 2.5 years, David? Something like that.
Oh, more than that.
More than that. But it was impressive. I'm trying to think of the linkages that, the links on the, there was a reference to the South, the SRL, the Southern Rail System that Tom Elliott's banging on about all the time on 3AW radio. There'll be news stations at Doncaster to link up with Burwood and on that Cheltenham line, so that somebody could get on a train, if you like, I think down to Clayton, and conceivably go through the new SRL line, just keep going, and it'll take them out to the airport. That's something I wasn't aware of, but all in all, it was quite a good tour. I'm glad I went.
Okay, thanks, mate. Yep.
The other thing I just for the while I'm here, there's a book up the back. There's, as you know, different activities that we're looking to do. I just put a book up the back. I've got my name and a friend of mine's name down there for the to try and gauge an interest on those who want to go to Ripponlea. I haven't got a date yet, but if we've got enough numbers, we'll organise a date. But there's a book down the back before you leave today. If you're interested in Ripponlea, just write your name down there so I can take it away at the end of the meeting. All right, thanks, David.
Thanks, John. Yeah, well, on that subject, there are sheets down the back for morning melodies. That's first of all the October one, and the second one is Christmas. With the October one, we'll close it off at the at the August meeting, because I'll have to book the tickets. So if you want to go to the October one, get your name on the list at the latest August, and probably with the Christmas one, the latest would be September. There's also the sheet for the Creswick Woolen Mills, if anyone's interested, possibly in August. So we need to move on that fairly quickly. So if you put your name down, I'll follow up with whoever's got their name, and we'll see if it's a goer and work out some arrangements. And of course, the Christmas lunch list is there as well. So important to get your names down for the Christmas lunch at the end of November. So yeah, some good activities happening, and Gary Papworth's just given us some material relating to the North East Link, which is in our area, of course. So we may be able to organise a visit to the North East Link and have a look at what they're doing there. Yeah, or they can come here and do it. Yeah. Come here and do it. Yeah. Okay. So there's plenty of activities, and urge everyone to give consideration to taking them up. Now, Members' Corner this morning, Michael Doherty has very kindly agreed to talk to us and give us a video presentation. Michael is a relatively new member of this club, although it's been a while now, and he's had a very interesting journey in his life. His father was a Collingwood Premiership player. Michael himself was a very good player and probably could have played for Collingwood apart from injury, but had a very successful plumbing business, and then got involved in drilling. Not the sort of drilling that Peter Bedford does, but drilling under the ground. So he's going to tell us about that, and also give us some pictures of drills and things like that. So Michael, would you like to come forward, mate? Unfortunately, we can't use the lapel microphone, so if you can just speak into this one, it'd be fine.
He's a dentist.
Well, you think, I've got them all there, but I don't know. Oh, I know where it is at.
Just a second. No, it doesn't matter.
Have trouble reading my own writing. Sometimes I've got to ask Mark what I've written there. Thinking back a couple of weeks ago, David rang. Actually, I was in the toilet and he asked me if I'd do the members' corner. And I said yes. And while I was standing in the urinal, a fellow races in and says, God, just made it. And I thought for a while, and I looked over, and then I said to him, well, can you make me one too? About myself, I was born in Murray Road, West Preston in 1937. Went to the local kindergarten there. During those years over there, during the war years, I can remember the Bren gun carriers travelling along Murray Road and searchlights of the night lit up the sky. Houses were all blackened out and cars had headlights with partly covered with slits. And lots of cars, but there wasn't many cars, but the ones that were around had gas producers. On the lamppost at the top of the streets, there was a sign, War Saving Streets. And my mum used to bake cakes and organise it with a woman next door, and they used to send them over to Britain. School. First school was a hole in East Preston, and there was 90 pupils and 2 rooms, 2 nuns and 5 grades. I don't know how that worked anyway. Second school was St Thomas's Clifton Hill, a great school. All the sons of working class families and about 500 fellas there. Third school was Abbotsford Tech at St Joe's in prep for plumbing apprenticeship. Then to Preston Tech and RMIT for final training. I had numerous jobs, one with the Public Works Department, big projects all around the CBD. And I left there and I went as a maintenance plumber to Ford Motor Company in Broadmeadows, where they just built a new factory to make Falcons and stuff. And I lasted there a while, and in the meantime I applied for another job with a company called Thermal Traders, and I got that. And it was a really good job, and I was supplied with a current model Holden utility, and I could use it for work and private. Now, Thermal Traders were the company that introduced Portagas. They were a company combined with Australian Gaslight Company and Colonial Gas. Then I left there and went to work at Christie's Motor Auctions.
Michael, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up, please, or...
Bring the mic close to you.
Yeah.
That's better.
Maybe
How's
you
that?
speak louder.
Yeah, that, all right?
Yeah, it's better. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Then I went to work at Christie's Motor Auctions
Thank you.
in preparation to work with my father as he obtained a franchise for Dodge and Chrysler. It was doomed for failure because the credit scores loomed up just before the Valiants arrived, and it was just utter disaster. So then I was without a job, and I applied for a job with a company called Ferrier Brothers, which were the makers of chef stoves, as a fitter. And times were a bit tough then, and they lasted 6 months and they went under. I was out of work again, and then 2 mates had just started to work for themselves because they couldn't get jobs. and they used to employ me for a couple of days a week. Jobs were scarce and I never really wanted to work for myself, I just sort of slipped into it. In brief history of work, I started on my own, then finished up with one plumber and one apprentice. Time of completion, I had 60 on staff, built a factory and had 24 radio controlled trucks and a backhoe. Bad times ahead, change of government and plumbers got a massive increase in wages, and also materials went up by about 20%, basically in big trouble. Two companies that we worked for were A.V. Jennings and Realty Development Corporation came to the rescue and helped out as they were in trouble also. At one stage, I think we were the biggest plumbing company in Victoria. We had contracts with the Housing Commission to convert bath heaters over to hot water services. We used to do about 10 of those a week. And plumbing on new homes, about 20 a week, and sometimes more, as well as multi-storey flats and factories. Got out of financial trouble, had an auction, cleaned out everything, and went into partnership with a mate, with drainage, with a couple of trucks and backhoes and a compressor, on mainly sewage work and estate work. First jobs were at Mill Park, stayed there for 2 years, it was highly successful. But the economy dropped again and we were forced to work for the gas and fuel, installing high pressure steel mains and poly mains around Melbourne. That lasted for a while and then the government decided to employ day labour and get rid of contractors. Mate and I had enough, so we parted. Then later I obtained a small contract with the SDC with installing underground power. During this time I had advice from a fellow and he said there's a demonstration for a new type of drilling machine coming from America, and the demo was down at Elwood. So I went down and had a look and I thought, oh, this is all right. So I bought one. And it was number 7 in Australia, and now they're all over the place. Obtained contracts with City Power, Melbourne Water, Telstra, Optus. You put the machine on top of the ground and they can drill underground and go into rivers and driveways and roads and whatever. Things were good. We had contracts in Brisbane, bought 3 more machines for that contract. Bought a machine for a contract in Adelaide for Telstra. And then we bought a huge machine in year 2000, which we paid $1 million for. Also, we had another machine which could burst cast iron water pipes, existing ones, and pull in existing poly pipe. That was very successful too. We gained contracts with Layton's to help install conduits, as they had combined with a Macquarie Bank and a company from Canada to install a next-gen cable from Townsville to Perth. Enough of that. Achievements in drilling, we've drilled under just about every river up the east coast. The Parramatta River, the Hunter, the Manning, and Yarra, and God.
Still busy, Nick.
Someone else calling you.
I didn't allow for that. Anyway, and then places we worked at were in Darwin. We had a big contract there. We in Perth, Hobart, Adelaide, Brisbane, and multiple towns in Victoria, Mildura, Portland, Mallacoota, Albury, everywhere. Big sewer projects, we worked at Rye, Sorrento, Diamond Creek, Box Hill, And that was on low pressure sewage. Then there's a new thing, new type of sewage out called high pressure. And we did half of Flinders. We shared it with another contractor, and we did all the Summers and Balnarring. The sewer, all Kilmore town, everywhere, all the pubs and racetracks and stuff. Gas, we did work at Williamstown, Coburg, and all the suburbs around you can imagine. Telstra, almost every suburb in Melbourne and Country Vic, as also with Optus. I'll finish with that. Now, sport, played footy with YCW Preston, and then with East Preston CYNS, and then with Old Paradians. Collingwood under 19s and reserves. Played tennis for research and played in the B grade premierships. Coached an under 19 Old Paradians team to a premiership, undefeated. Now Kevin Ryan introduced me to croquet at Ivanhoe, which I enjoyed. Got to mention the first car was a 1926 Willys Overland Whippet, what a machine. Licenses, licensed MMBW, licensed blasting, licensed high pressure welding, steel, aluminium, poly, stainless steel, heavy duty truck license, backhoe, excavator license, forklifts, builder's license, built factories and houses, etc. After leaving school, I met great blokes at YCW, level under 18, and went to Adelaide with a combined team at one stage. Got called up for national service in 1956 and finished up with 2 stripes. Met great blokes. Mike Doherty, who is still my friend, he lives in Young, New South Wales, and also John Booth. John Booth introduced me to the Old Parade Football Club. That's when I met David Jones through John's brother, Peter. Peter had a close friend, was a close friend also of Kevin Ryan. Also, when we moved to Ivanhoe from research, we were in the same street as David. He had an MG and I had one too. David took us on many enjoyable RACV rallies throughout Victoria. One time in Wodonga, we were told to meet early in the morning at 8:30 in the main street. David was having trouble with his MG. He had a non-factory ignition system aftermarket thing fitted to it. Well, everything was quiet, and then bang goes David's MG. The biggest backfire you've ever heard in your life under the verandas. Every alarm went off in the street with flashing lights. It's unbelievable. Sirens, etc. You know, I was just thinking, just imagine a judge trying to explain that. I've got to mention a little mention here about. I took one of my grandkids for driving the MG one day, and she pointed to the handle on the door, and she said, "What's that for?" I said, "That's to wind the windows up." And then when I reversed backwards, she said, "Where's your reversing camera, Grandpa?" Oh, God. Met my wife up at the Heidelberg Town Hall, and later married. Had 5 children and 13 grandkids that we know of, and 3 great-grandkids. Have been together since 1964, and Mark's happy and I'm married. We stayed in a unit one night, and this fellow says to me early one morning, "Can you cut out the noise while you're having sex?" I said, "I'm only trying to get my socks on." Anyway, I better tell Mark's joke. This is one of her favourites. this husband and wife scenario, and he says, I'm going out on the birds tonight, and she said, well, you won't be sleeping with me, and which is a pretty standard thing, apparently. So he comes home in the night and everything's dark, and he slips into the bedroom, doesn't switch the light on, hops into bed, and he's laying there, and all of a sudden he thinks, God, I think my luck's changed here. So he puts his hand over on the thigh and rubs the thigh a bit, and the next minute there's a bit of merriment going on. So the next morning he gets up and it's still dark, and he goes out to the kitchen, and the wife's standing there, and he said, what are you doing? Before you start, Mum's only going to be here for a few days. And another small one is this fellow gets into bed, and this woman says to him, "You're drunk." He says, "How do you know?" He says, "Because you live next door." Now, just got one more, and then we'll get on. Yeah. There's a fellow in the cemetery, and he's at the grave, and he's crying. He's going up and down, looking at the headstone. And there's a young couple walk up and they said, "Oh, God, so sorry to hear about your wife dying." And he said, "Oh, no, it's not my wife. It's my wife's first husband. I wished he didn't die so young." Now, briefly now, my son still carries on this grilling business, and I'm all finished now, so hopefully we can see a few photos. Here we go. This is see the top there, that's a conduit that's been installed, and these other conduits have been pulled through for, I don't know whether you're all aware of it, there's big projects going on in Melbourne and Sydney with all this IT stuff, and all these cables are for, these conduits are for the IT stuff, and there's Amazon are involved, and Bill Gates. They don't use those names, they all got these other fancy names. This is where Anthony drilled under the Parramatta River, and that's the Gladesville Bridge on the top. And see where that tugboat is, or I think it's a tugboat. Yeah. That's where the pipe comes out, way over there. Yeah. Yeah. The rods are about 6 metres long, and they're 6 inches in diameter. And that machine weighs about 40 tonnes. Wow. Yeah. Okay, Bruce. That was that same job there. You can see the Gladesville Bridge, and there was no conduit put in there. They were just pulled in as they came. Yeah, okay, Bruce. This is at a place called Cancoban. These are some of the hydro pipes coming down the hill, and they had on the right hand side of that machine there's a big power station, and they had advice to put in. It's hard to imagine, but they had advice to put in a water supply for sprinkler service. So Anthony got the machine and plonked it on the ground there and drilled up the hill and found some water up there and pulled a pipe down, and so they could put their fire service in. Yeah, right, Bruce.
Well, the next was the video that you put on there. That was just the 4 photos. It was the two videos.
Yeah.
Different cert. Program. That's it. The videos, yeah.
So that one, it's a coming up there.
Yep. Oh. Yeah. No, sorry, it's showing on the screen, but it's not projecting.
Oh.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, well, that's one.
It should. I'll have to work out. I'm not quite sure why it's not showing.
Yeah, this one is showing drilling under the Swan River in Perth. And we're pulling in a conduit which is 700 metres long. Well, that's a bad one.
Thanks, Mike.
You don't realise that sort of thing. Won't read it.
There we are. It's amazing what we learn about our colleagues. So really appreciate, Michael, the effort you put into that presentation, and I can certainly endorse some of Michael's remarks, particularly about us touring in our MGs. We've had a huge amount of fun. Now, Tony Healy is here. He's going to do his presentation on his rail journey in Switzerland, but first, Kevin Ryan. I would think, Kev, you've got a sing-along?
Yep.
Good. Over to you, mate.
He worked for himself, his own business. It's his own business. He does drilling machine for his own business. There we go. Yeah, that's right. So, don't get yourself. School, isn't it? It's at the textbooks.
Okay, the book's being handed out. Okay, well, let's get started. The first song, what's the first song, Bev?
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, that's right. Number 23, Singing in the Rain. This was, you may remember, Gene Kelly sang this song. Just in case you've forgotten, let's go.
Right, let's get the water.
Right, Bev. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing now, so dark out the cloud. The sun's in my heart, and I'm ready for love. When the storm clouds chase everyone from the place, come on with the rain, I'll smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing in the rain.
It's bad luck to remember a lot of these songs.
Okay, well, okay, Bev, what's the next one?
3 coins in the fountain.
Oh yeah, three coins in the fountain.
What number?
Number 36. Righto, let's go. Three coins in the fountain, each one seeking happiness. thrown by three hopeful lovers. Which one will the fountain bless? Three hearts in the fountain, each heart longing for its home. There they lie in the fountain, somewhere in the heart of Rome. Which one will the fountain bless? Which one will the fountain bless? Three coins in the fountain, through the ripples how they shine. Just one wish will be granted, one heart will wear a valentine. Make it mine, make it mine, make it mine. Third one, last one, number 45. And I don't have a straw voter for Mauricio Bellio, who's the man who made this one. Famous. Thank heaven for little girls. All little girls get bigger every day. Thank heaven for little girls. They grow up in the most delightful way. Those little eyes so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little girls. Thank heaven for them all, no matter where, no matter who. Without them, what would little boys do? Thank heaven, thank heaven, thank heaven for little girls. That's it. Pick up these coins.
Got the coins? Okay, we'll just a couple of minutes while we get set up, and Tony will come forward and I'll introduce him. And you want to, you got a USB or something? Yeah, we'll get that set up.
The kitchen sink.
Just about.
Just watch the chords there, Tony.
Yes. Sure. Self-advance.
Yeah.
You remember all this. They were good films too, but they come out, right? Damn rubbish. Produce the music instead. Yeah, that's a picture. It should be just stage productions now. There's nothing done in a film wise. No.
So it's just sort of a series of pictures.
It's just a series of photos.
So they self-advance, or did you want to?
I think what you do myself.
Yeah, I'll probably have to leave it here for convenience. But you can just sort of say next, advance it for you. That's the first one? That's the first one? That's the first one, yeah.
When we get towards the we were surprised because the last few photographs were hundreds of Switzerland. There'll be a few photos The trouble is, we're having to stop.
Yeah, well, you just sorry, but we should have a proper microphone on that. I've got it incorrectly. And I have to put the time, otherwise we'll delay the work, trying to work out what I've done wrong to see if we use that microphone. The signal is just to keep it close to your mouth, otherwise
Okay, we're ready to go, boys? Okay.
Get it moving.
Our guest presenter this morning is Tony Healy. Now, Tony's I've known for a long time. He particularly was a very close friend of my youngest brother. He ran a very successful engineering business. He's a very keen traveller, as we'll find out this morning. He's also very keen on Morris cars and has got a superbly restored Morris Cowley motor vehicle, which is a pride and joy. And he's also rebuilding another. He's getting close to completion.
15, 16.
Okay, we might talk a little bit about that. But apart from cars, Tony is very keen on train journeys, and he's going to tell us about a train journey that he and his wife Helen did recently across Switzerland, which is absolutely spectacular. And I think this is the second time that he's done it. That it was so good the first time that that Tony's decided they'd do it again. So it's that rail journey that he's going to talk about to us this morning, and aided by some pictures that he took along the way. So Tony, thank you for coming. Love to see you, and particularly love to hear about and see your rail journey in Switzerland.
Thank you, David. Before I start, in this folder there's some blurb from the railways in Switzerland that we travelled on. So I'll just pass that on. And also in there we were preempted by the Age last Saturday. They ran a 3-page blurb in their travel guide about just the tour that we had taken twice. We took this tour first in 2019, and we took it because we saw it advertised. It was run by Webjet, and I've got to say the thing that appealed to us first was that it was as cheap as chips, and we liked it so much that both of us said that as soon as we got home, we said we could happily go back and do it again straight away. It was really good. As David introduced me, I'm keen on things engineering and mechanical. I've been involved in engineering all my working life. So my interest in the tour, as well as the beautiful scenery and what have you, is in the mechanicals of the trains and the civil engineering involved in the construction of the rails and so forth. or prior to us starting on taking the first one, like most of us, we'd seen some of the famous rail journeys on TV programs. So that was probably the initial prompt that sort of got us going. The tour that we did this year was organised through Swiss Travel, who did a marvellous job. We started the inquiry with saying we wanted to go here and here and here and here and here and here, and how many days we wished to spend in each place. And they organised all the train journeys, hotels, and in their organisation of the train journeys, for each train journey place to place, when we got their feedback, they had a selection of train times there and back and so forth, and you picked the one that suited you on the day, and so it was really well organised. The hotels they chose were all, with maybe one exception, were all excellent. Just wonderful hotels, good breakfast every morning, and all of them were close to the railway stations. The furthest we had to walk was about 700 metres, and a couple that were further away than that, the hotels supplied shuttle buses carting us back and forth. So it was very easy, and the things that, or the famous trains that we travelled on, the Gothard Panorama Express, and this line was opened in 1880. And when you look at the construction and so forth, you wonder how they did it at the time, but it was all pick and shovel, explosives, and very hard work, obviously. And the Bernini, that goes from Zurich to Lucerne to Lugano. And the next one is the Bernina Express, which runs from Lugano to San Moritz. And then probably the most famous one, and everyone's heard of this one, the Glacier Express, which runs from San Moritz to Zermatt, and it's a 7.5 hour rail journey. And from Zermatt to Montreux and Interlaken, the Golden Pass Express is another famous one, and the two offshoot rail journeys that probably are most interesting was the Jungfrau Bahn, which goes from Interlaken to Jungfraujoch, and Jungfraujoch is the highest railway station in Europe. And the other from Zermatt to Gornegrat, the Jungfrau Bahn opened in 1912, and from Zermatt to Gornegrat, when Gornegrat's at the base of the Matterhorn, that opened in 1907, and it's in, all of these are in almost impossible country to construct anything in. In fact, when we were in Zermatt, we were fascinated. There was a helicopter flying around, carting some, what we finally found out later, were building materials hanging off the belly of the helicopter. And they were carting these building materials to a building site up on the mountain that was inaccessible by any other way. Now the cities visited on this one we started in Zurich. Zurich's the largest city in Switzerland, the financial centre of Switzerland. Of course, we've all heard of the gnomes of Zurich, all the famous bankers and so forth. And it's also the largest railway hub in Switzerland. When you go into the station, the old building's really beautiful, and when you get in there, all of a sudden there's all these escalators and elevators going everywhere. The railway station they built under the old railway station, it's now 4 levels deep. And Zurich to Lucerne. Lucerne's a beautiful old city. Probably, for most people, they'd say it's the nicest old city in Switzerland, built around Lake Lucerne. Fabulous country. There's some famous things in Lucerne. There's a wooden bridge walkway that runs over the end of the lake, and all of the arches on this wooden walkway have got beautiful paintings of local events and so forth on them. From Lucerne, the next was not really a stop, because we only saw it from the train and from the boat. Flüelen is at the other end of Lake Lucerne, and on one journey we travelled to Flüelen and then on the ferry to Lucerne, whereas this most recent one we didn't do that, we just travelled on the train. And Lugano is in the Ticino, the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, and it's typical as it's because of the steepness of the valleys. Lots of these towns on the lakes are very steep, and at Lugano, the town steps down to the lake, but from the upper level of where we were staying, which is nearly at the top of the hill, there's a funicular that goes down to the middle of town. The next stop was Tirano, and Tirano was on the Italian-Swiss border, and again it's one of those, it's a transfer point. We only spend a couple of hours there, so know little about it. The interesting part is from both times we were there, the train from Tirano wasn't running, so there was a bus, so we missed out on some of the train journey. But the interesting part was that the bus went through Italy for a small part of I don't know how far, just only a few miles of the journey, but the Italian border police were all told to get our passports out, and the Italian border police walked through the bus, had a look around, didn't look at anyone's passports, and they got off at the next stop and must have gone back. And Lugano to San Moritz is another beautiful train journey. And probably the most famous one, the Glacier Express, from San Moritz to Zermatt. And it travels through a wide range of countries, and occasionally the train's perched cut into the mountainside above the valley below. Other times you're actually in the valley, and occasionally in the valley there'll be the railway line, the road next to the railway, and the river. And then they climb out. But Zermatt, our favourite spot in Switzerland, if you could dream of a Swiss ski town, it'd be Zermatt. All of the buildings, probably the tallest is 2 or 3 stories, and they're built very much like the old houses were built there back in the eons. There's a small part of Zermatt where they've preserved some of these old buildings that were built in the 16th and 17th century, and apart from the fact that they're having a hard time propping them up these days, the design of them and so forth is horribly like the buildings that are being built now. And of course Zermatt's famous because it's the jump off point for the Matterhorn, and the town's very much into honouring the people who've climbed the Matterhorn, and particularly the ones who didn't come back. In the graveyard in the town and in the churchyard there are lots of graves of people who died on the Matterhorn, and memorial plaques or gravestones without graves to other people who died on the Matterhorn. Often they're decorated with climbing gear. And the interesting part is as you walk down the street in Zermatt, there are bronze plaques set in the pavement reminding us of the people who died on the Matterhorn, and it's very interesting to read them. I think the youngest person who died on the Matterhorn was 15 years old, and the oldest was 81. Now, talking about the trains themselves, being typically Swiss, they're on time. If the train's going to leave at 1:01, leaves at 1:01, not 1:01 and 1 second. If you're 1 second late, you don't get on. And the trains are all clean and tidy, and I'm sure our railways have a lot to learn from them. And I'm fascinated with the mechanics of them, because the Gornergrat rail and the Jungfraujoch rail they're rack rails. The gradients are all too steep to get traction, a steel wheel to steel rail. And the engine or the electric motors on the train drive a gear which engages with a rack that's set between the tracks, and the tracks are only about 2 feet wide. They're all very narrow gauge. And the interesting bit for me was that there were 2 different sorts of racks. There was racks with single cut teeth and racks with offset teeth, and they're all a pair of racks a few inches apart on a central rail. And it turns out that in thinking about it and asking the question, the offset one is used in some places where the trains go a bit faster because they're much quieter. Now, if you'd like to start scrolling through the thanks, Bruce. Sorry, too long?
No. I'll tell a little story afterwards.
Okay.
Oh, that's the second one, sorry.
Yeah, if you just like to scroll through, This is
That's
this
the
is a
second
village near Interlaken where we stayed on the previous time because the pub in Interlaken was full, or one of the pub we were supposed to stay in was full, and it was a beautiful little village. And if you scroll through them, this was the day we arrived, and it was a quite clear day, as you can see. And when we woke up in the morning, the place was absolutely covered in snow.
Next.
Just get popping. Even you feel it.
That's the bridge.
No, that isn't the bridge in Lucerne. That's a bridge just out of the little town where we stayed, and it's reputed to be over 200 years old. And there's and the only place in it where there's any metal is where they've repaired it. The rest of it's all timber with wedges and dowels, and that's the town we're talking about. It's Wildersville. And that. Sorry.
Want to go back?
No, that's okay. You see the two lakes there with the land, bit of land between them. That's Interlaken, and Interlaken's in two parts, the east and the west, and they're about 4 minutes apart by train. Oh, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I said the two halves of Interlaken, the east and the west, are about 4 minutes apart by train, and the trains run about every 10 minutes. Most of these are actually photos taken from the train as you travel along, so you get an idea of how high up above the bottom of the valleys you are, and how cold it is. This is that's the rack of the rack railways, yeah. We're getting a bit higher up here. Mustn't have been very cold there. She's taking her coat off. A wooden friend. Wow.
Climb that one.
Would you like to climb that one?
No,
And you can see there at the top of that horrible ladder, that mesh you can see, that's to contain the rock face to try to prevent avalanches. The bottom you can just see the top of a building. That's a building that's alongside the rail line. So you can see why they don't want rocks flying down.
don't go there in the winter time.
Well, actually, this wasn't winter. This was in May, And we were there again this year in May, and it was a lot warmer than it was when we went in 2019.
Climate change.
Whether it's, well, there's obvious climate change involved, but apparently they do have a fair variety as far as the start and stop of the seasons. We were sort of wondering about some of these towns perched in the bottom of these lovely valleys where there's very little flat ground. You wonder what all the people do for a living there. We did talk to some farmers on the train this time, of a group of young farmers, I'm saying young 30, 40-year-olds. We were talking to, and they were on a boys' outing, which they do every year, and they were telling us that where they farm, the average farm is only 33 hectares, and they run dairy cows and pigs. And of course, during the winter, they're all barned. Oh, there's a sideways town. Some of these photos have got mixed up on it because that's way back in the eons. That was the morning after in the little town where it had snowed very quietly overnight. We were, and this was taken from the Glacier Express, and as you go along, quite often in these valleys you can see from the train, because you're a fair way above the bottom of the valley, you can sometimes see 2 or 3 little hamlets, and they all seem to have a church that looks almost exactly like that one.
Now hot shower.
That's
the thought of it. Beautiful place.
Another thing that we noticed, and you'll probably see some of it in some of these photos, was that, well, all of the trains are electric, and of course Switzerland's well known for its hydropower, and in lots of places where a valley meets another valley or something, there's lots of relatively small hydropower stations, obviously just supplying the local area. Here we are in Zermatt. our favourite place and David's favourite place too, in Switzerland. And that pointy mountain you can see there at the end of the street is the Matterhorn. It's not the tallest mountain in the area. There's a couple that are taller than it, but it's famous because it's a very technical and difficult climb.
Very spectacular.
There it is. There it is. It's hard to climb that.
With difficulty.
With difficulty.
Yeah. That's why it's a challenge.
Wow.
I was walking on our second morning in Zermatt, and it had rained overnight, and all of those icicles had formed just overnight.
Is that cold?
Cold. Very cold. This current group of photos are on the Gornagrat Railway from Zermatt up to the base of the Matterhorn at Gornagrat.
It's a good one, Tom.
Yeah, that's
Very good, that one. Someone's chiseling.
If anybody's trying to climb.
Yeah, I know. You do
it's a magnificent, the chain of mountains, of which, you know, the Matterhorn's only one, are quite spectacular.
Really It doesn't surround
That's the tallest I've ever been. This is the, they call it a hotel at Gornagrat. And you can see there's an observatory there. This again is from the train, and the train that runs from Zermatt to Gornagrat. It's electric, of course, and it's a total rack railway, so it works very hard all the way up because they're very steep grades, and on the way back down it uses no power at all because the motors are also dynamos, so and they act as brakes and put current back into the grid as it goes back down the hill to, or the many hills to Zermatt. And the railway stations, That's an elaborate one on this thing, but there's a few other stops along the way where they can hail the train, because in the season they cart cross-country skiers to various spots along the rail, and they ski back down to wherever they go to.
Need oxygen.
And these posts that you can see are graduated there. They indicate the snow depth. Well, you can see where some brave skiers have left their mark. And this time when we were travelling up to Gornagrat on the train, there were a group of fellows who were hang gliding instructors, and they take people on doubles on the hang gliders from the high points, but they don't like taking people who weigh over 100 kilograms. It's too hard to take off, and you land a bit hard. Oh, this is one of the plaques in Zermatt, the Lord Francis Douglas. He didn't live very long, poor fellow, did he? You don't go sleepwalking there. As I said, some of these are out of sequence. This is the Glacier Crest. This is one of the famous stone bridges, and it's about 100 years old. And you go straight off it into a tunnel that goes straight through that mountain. They look a bit like pictures from old Christmas cards, don't they?
Yeah.
Was the lake frozen, Tony?
At St. Roots, around the edges it was, David, yeah. Yeah. A mini Matterhorn. This is an interesting one. Depending on which way you're travelling, the train had to lose or gain height as it headed into the next valley. It was quite a long train, that one. It is, yeah. But you can see how far it's risen above the rail, and it struggled its way up. And you can see also on that one it emphasises how steep the grades are. And some of these trains, where it's relatively flat, drive on the wheels to the rails and engage the rack when the wheels, if the wheels start to slip, it automatically engages the rack to drive them up the steep grades. And we were about here on the train. I think it had 12 carriages. And that building we just saw was a power station. Now, do you like that one? That's a more modern version. This is Lucerne now. And these are the paintings in the wooden bridge that I spoke of earlier. Someone's about to lose their head. A part of that wooden bridge burnt a few years ago, and you can't tell now where they replaced the burnt bit. All of these shots are in Lucerne. On Lake Lucerne. all the waterfront properties, some beautiful properties, and most of them have their own boathouse that they can run their boat in off the lake, and some of them have got an elevator. They run their boat in, and the elevator picks the boat up, and they get off at the house level. This is in Lugano. You get an idea. And the city's on both sides of the lake. I can't think of anywhere we were in Switzerland that we couldn't see some snow-covered mountains. This is the funicular at Lugano, and I can't remember how much they charged. 2 Swiss francs or 3 Swiss francs or something. The locals often didn't ride it. A lot of them, when it was busy, you'd see them, and some of them were very fit. They were running up those stairs. Now we're back in Zurich. So I think that might be if we're going long enough, that might be a time to leave it.
That's done.
Yeah. It was a quick trip. We just went to Milan from Zurich.
That's Milan.
Thank you. I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
Just right there, to see anyone want to ask Tony any questions about that terrific presentation?
Just on the lake itself, I think the office took place in Riga. There was a ship, a big steamship there that's been renovated. Did you see it on the lake?
In Lucerne?
Yeah, on
Lake Lucerne. Yeah. There's a number of renovated old ferries that operate at Lucerne.
Probably built in the 1930s.
Yeah. There's 2 or 3 of them that were built in the 20s and 30s, I think now 2 of them are operating, and the third one, when we were there recently, was about to go into service. Yeah.
Because it just runs up and down that lake, and
Yeah.
one was Riga,
Yeah.
and that has a funicular railway, runs from to the top of the mountain. And Riga, funicular railway.
Yeah, well, now, my brother and I, the girls didn't want to go, they were looking at shops. My brother and I, in Lucerne, jumped on the local ferry that went to various spots around the lake, and it was really lovely. It was terrific. Yeah.
All right, all I can say is I endorse what Tony said about Zermatt. When we first went to Switzerland, it was 1975, and I spoke to a colleague in London, and I said, we've only got a short time in Zermatt. What do you in Switzerland? What do you recommend? He said, there's just one place you've got to go to, and that's Zermatt, and it is incredible. You can't get in there by car. You only get in there by train, so there's no vehicles in the town at all. And you wake up in the morning, you look out the window, and the Matterhorn just towers above you. But the most fascinating place in Zermatt's the cemetery, and the number buried there from trying to climb the Matterhorn just seems to go on and on forever. It's just incredible. Anyway, Tony, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Might have inspired a few to think about the journey, but it's a fair way to go these days. But it certainly is a spectacular
But also, I will say that the way we did it this time was not very taxing at all. You know, everything was quite comfortable. So, yeah.
It's getting there and back is the problem these days. Tony.
Or getting travel insurance.
Yeah, that's it. I'll give it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys and ladies.
You might want that.
That's.
Thank you.
That's about it for today. Next meeting is, I think, around about the 9th of August. Anyway, second Tuesday in August. And not sure yet what we'll be doing as far as the guest speaker, but we'll work on that. And it's just great to see so many here, and look forward to